more YouTube. Today, Josh and I are going to talk about how we acquire cars in our dealership, NG Supercars.
We're also going to talk about the steps we go through when we're looking at buying a car.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan and this is Josh and this is the Howard. And some of you asked, what is the Howard? Well, go watch that video. We already did a video on it, okay? So stop asking about what is the Howard. Anyway, it's where we store some cars and it's got a lounge. If you didn't already know, we have a dealership, NG Supercars, and we have sold about, I don't know, 9 or 10 cars now. And we got asked, how do we acquire these cars? What are the things that we're doing to buy these cars? Where are you finding these cars? And then what are the steps you're taking to protect yourselves to make sure that you get a good car? So we thought, let's just do one video where we talk all about those things and kind of break it down. First of all, real quick, if you'd like to support us, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. And of course, you can go check out our dealership, ngsupercars.com. And if you have any questions about cars that we might have in stock, send us an email, sales@ngsupercars.com. Or if maybe you want to sell us your car,
We need cars, so that's why you probably don't see any on the website, because we sell them as quickly as we get them. So we need cars.
They turn over fast. Obviously, that is one of the ways. So there's 5 primary ways that we're acquiring cars, and one of them is people like you, one of the viewers, or someone finds out about us and they says, hey, they contact us and they say, hey, I've got this car, I would like to sell it to you guys, and we say, great, send us pictures, send us the VIN, send us any information about it, blah blah blah. We go back and forth. Eventually come up with a price. Oh yeah, have a price in mind, because we can't like guess on everything. What you know, like, because sometimes people want something that's just astronomical, and we're like,
yeah, and just give us a price that's reasonable. Like if you're looking at cars online and they're going for X dollars, we're not going to give you that much for it, because we have to have a cushion for repairs and make ready costs, and we also have to make money too. When you sell to us, it's going to be for a little bit less, but you're paying for that convenience of just, here's my car and you get the money and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to deal with sellers and go through the Craigslist or eBay or Auto Trader hoops that you got to jump through to sell a car.
Believe me, we do all of that.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating.
It very definitely is.
Almost every car we get, we've had to put money into. Even the cars that we thought were perfect, still needed.
Yeah.
I don't think we've spent less than $1,000 on any car we bought.
So you can tell us your car's perfect, but it's not.
It's never perfect.
It's never perfect. I don't care what you say. Sorry.
So that's the first way we've been buying cars, and that's actually our favorite, because I feel like we get good cars that way.
Yeah.
And it's usually a little bit more of a relationship, and so we can kind of get a feel for the car. So the second way, which is probably our least favorite way, is when we buy them at auction. So in the wholesale market, we go on to Manheim or whatever, and we buy them at auction. That one's obviously a bit more of a gamble. Those are the cars that we can't buy unless it's just stupid low price, because we just don't know. The 575 is an example. We bought that one at auction, and it had all sorts of problems. And it even had problems disclosed. And it had more problems than the problems that were disclosed.
Granted, that one was sold as is, so we were kind of, rolling the dice on that one. But even the ones that are not, they call it green light, which means there shouldn't be any more problems that cost more than $500 to fix. There always is, even if they say they're perfect. And there's a reason dealers are selling them at auction. Our job to figure out why are they at the auction and why is it cheaper than it should be. And sometimes, that can be difficult.
So speaking of dealers, the third way we buy cars is we actually do a dealer-to-dealer transaction. We've done a few of these where we might find a car at a dealership, or a dealership even contacts us and says, hey, I've got this car, I don't want it, can you guys buy it for me? That sort of stuff. Those are pretty simple, because at least the financial part of it, because the dealerships, I mean, there's no
you write them a check and we get the title, and that's the end of it. It's super easy.
Those are easy. Of course, there's still some risk, because dealer might be hiding something. Who knows? Fourth way is that we actually find a car online and we solicit an individual and we say, hey, we want to buy your car. That hasn't happened too much, but a few times we've done that, where we say, hey, this car is something we really want. It's a car that's got a good value on it. Call them up and negotiate a price, and hooray.
And we're also willing to pay somebody. If you know someone that has a car they want to sell, or you found one somewhere and you think it's a deal, send us a link for it, send us contact information. And if we end up buying it for a good price or whatever, we'll throw something your way.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do that, because a lot of these deals just aren't out in the public. And hey, I have a friend that has this 430 that's for sale and he doesn't know what to do with it. Well, we'll buy it.
Yeah. Send
Put
them
us
our
in
way.
touch. So we like doing those too.
And then the final way that we're acquiring cars is through trade-ins. So we've actually gotten, 2 trade-ins now?
Yeah.
Someone wants to buy a car that we've got in stock, and they say, hey, I've already got this other cool car. It's something that it kind of appeals to us. We think we can sell it. Obviously, we need to make it, again, it has to be a big enough margin that we can actually make money on it. Here's where trade-ins get complicated is we can't take cars that are like way outside of our bounds. So for example, we've had people offer us some classic cars, and we're like, we don't know how to value this car. We don't have the audience to sell that car. And that's the problem is like, if it's not a supercar, we're gonna have a harder time selling it, and we don't really know those cars in that market well enough.
So basically, if you come to us with, hey, I have this Corvette Resto Mod, badass, whatever, we're gonna say, okay, great, we'll give you half of what you think it's worth.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be so low that we could just be like, throw it on the market and dump it.
Exactly.
Which no one's gonna be happy about that except for the person buying it from us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if it's not a supercar, I mean, obviously Porsches, McLarens, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, we'll definitely consider. Even some cool cars like BMW M3s, we'd probably consider. Dodge Viper if we got the right price.
Anything cool.
But keep in mind, like for trade-ins, we gotta have cars that we know we can sell reasonably fast. If it's a car that's like super obscure or if it's highly modified, we're probably not gonna take it just because we can't sell those very easily. So we're kind of picky. For every one car we buy, we probably looked at 50.
Yeah, we're gonna give you trade-in value. We're not gonna give you retail value and sell our car for trade-in value. That's not how it works. That's why there's a spread right there. It's for us to make money and for us to recondition the car if we take something in on trade. So you trade something in, you're giving up a little maybe of money that you could have bought selling it or made selling it on your own, but the hassle is way less for you. So, that's definitely worth something.
Well, keep in mind, if you're a Texas buyer as well, you get a tax advantage to trade in. So
correct. Like let's say you have you're buying a $100,000 car and you've got a $50,000 car that we're going to give you $50,000 for. Well, you're only going to pay sales tax on $50,000 because you're getting a credit for that trade-in for $50,000.
So that'll save you a good $3,000.
Yeah.
I mean, hey.
It can save a lot, especially if you're trading from like a Ferrari to a McLaren or something. A lot of times, the cars are worth about the same or work something out and there's no sales tax. Mm-hmm. Or if you're trading in a car that's worth more than the car you're buying, there's not going to be any sales tax.
Once we've got a car or we're starting to take interest in a car, that's where we kind of do some sleuthing.
Very. And sorry guys, some of this is extreme, but this is what we do.
This is CYA, so we don't get screwed.
Yeah, we have to put together the whole picture, not just the car, but the owner, its history, possibly previous owners, everything. And I'm going to go through all that with you right now and kind of explain what we do. Sometimes we don't do some of it, it just depends. If we're suspicious of a car, we're going to dig as deep as we possibly can. Okay, the first thing we're going to do, the very first thing is we're going to take the VIN and I'm going to Google the VIN and see what comes up. I'm looking for forum posts of, hey, my engine blew up, what do I do? Or I got in a wreck and here's pictures of my car, or a Copart listing at an insurance auction. Just anything sketchy or weird, I'm looking for that. So I'm gonna Google your VIN, and that's the very first thing I'm gonna do. Next, I'm gonna run a Carfax and an auto check and just check that and make sure the Carfax and the auto check come back clean with no accidents. I wanna see how many owners the car's had. I wanna see service records that are on Carfax. Look at those service records and see where you've taken the car for service. If you've taken your Ferrari to Ferrari and had everything done there and it's all documented on there, that's what I like to see. I don't like to see your Ferrari getting an oil change at Jiffy Lube once every 2 years. I don't want to see that. Put the history of the car together based on those 2 reports and get a better idea of how it spent its life and how it was treated. Then we have a database in Texas where we can pull the owner's name, their address, all of that information, the previous sales price, how much you paid for it, if you've got any liens on it. I'm going to look at if you've got a lien on it, and I'm okay with that. But I want to look at the bank where you have the lien. If you own a Ferrari and it's financed with Ferrari Financial, that's a good thing. That means you've got good credit and you've got a relationship with them. But if you're financed with Janky Bank 101, there's something going on. And
buy here, pay here.
Yeah, we don't like to see that because typically that means maybe the car wasn't maintained as well as it should have been. I hate to say that, but it's true. Like it's proven true hundreds of times. I really like to see cars that don't have a lien.
And on that note, if you have a lien and you say, hey, I've got a lien, but I'll pay it off first, we love that.
We love that.
That's major.
Because if you're trading in a car or we're buying a car from you that's got a lien, it's more than likely you don't have the money to pay that lien in full. So we actually have to come up with the money to pay to get the title, and there's a delay there, so we can't sell the car until we get that title in hand.
Right.
So, that's a little bit of a hassle for us. Also, if you're selling your car to a private party and you've got a lien on it, that can turn into a huge headache, because private party is most likely going to finance, or even if they have cash, they're not going to want to go pay off your lien before they get the title. So that can always be kind of difficult. And on that report too, we're looking for just to make sure it's got a clean title and there's nothing sketchy going on there. Then we're going to research the previous owner. We usually ask for a copy of a driver's license or something. If we don't have that, that's fine. We're going to ask for that. We're going to ask for insurance. With insurance, we want to see what kind of insurance company you've got. If you're with State Farm or USAA or somebody, or Hagerty or something like that, that's good. If you're with Janky Insurance 101 from around the corner, that worries me, because you typically, those insurance companies, you go with those because you've either been in wrecks before or your credit's bad or whatever, and that translates into the car not being maintained properly, maybe had been in a wreck, not treated well, whatever. So we also look at that. We're going to look up the address, and sometimes even we'll Zillow your house. We want to see where you live, what kind of house you live in. If you're trading in a Ferrari and you live in a $500 a month apartment and it stays outside in the parking lot, well, that's a red flag for us. Live in a nice neighborhood with a garage and it's kept in there, that's better. That's just something that we look at, because we want to, like I said, we're putting the history of the car, we're putting the story together.
And I want to point out, it's not that we're trying to be prejudiced against people who are maybe pushing their budget. We're trying to kind of cover our own ass, because if we start making all this deal and we're spending all this effort and time on it, and all of a sudden the last minute you're like, oh, I couldn't get financing, that just wasted all of our time. So if you're trying to really push your limits on your finances, and we're like, oh man, if we don't got a good feeling about it, and here's another guy who wants to buy the car, but maybe he'll pay slightly less, but he's got great credit and it's just going to be a super fast transaction. Yep. Sometimes we'll take that because it's less work, it's less hassle. I mean, we have to factor in how much effort we have to do to make a deal happen.
So basically, that's pretty much what we do to kind of put the history of the car together. And once we have a good idea on that, then obviously we're going to look at it in person. And the first thing I like to do is check the tires. Brand and date code. How old are your tires? On Ferraris and stuff, a lot of times the tires are old. That's pretty typical.
Almost every single time.
Yeah, because they don't get driven much. Okay, fine. But if you're running GT radials on your Ferrari, I'm going to question, did you change the oil? Have you been in an accident?
Right, what else are you cheaping out on?
What else are you cheaping out on? If you've got Michelins on there, Continentals.
If you're driving a Ferrari, the tires are probably the single largest, most expensive and important maintenance thing to do on these cars to make sure they drive
right. And it's not just for Ferraris, it's every car I've ever looked at.
Car.
I always look at the tires and I always look at the date code. So that tells a lot about the car. After we do that, I'm going to check the paint thickness. I'm going to run around the car and check the paint thickness. I'm also going to look for flop, which is one panel being a different color than another. That just means they shot a panel, or they painted a panel and didn't blend it with the rest of the car. Super easy to see that. If I see that, I'm just going to walk away. I don't even, there's no question on that. We're looking for paint work. We're going to check the paint lines underneath the hood and all of that stuff. We don't want to see any paint work. Maybe got the bumper bumped or something and you've got documentation for that, and the bumper was painted and it was done at a good shop. That's totally fine. Not worried about that. Obviously, we're going to start looking for common issues on specific cars. Like Ferrari's got the sticky buttons. Lamborghinis do too. Just the common stuff. We're gonna just check and see if that was taken care of. A lot of times on the Ferraris, I don't know, what's a bunch of common stuff on a 430?
I mean, we check the taillights, check the side view mirrors, check the headliner, check the leather.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Ball joints.
Yeah, all of that stuff, if it hasn't been addressed, it means the car probably hasn't been maintained. The owner's negligent or doesn't care or whatever. So if it's got all that stuff, it's like, okay, what else have they not done? Mm-hmm. If all of that stuff has been addressed, obviously we'd really like to see that. And it also means the rest of the car has been maintained well too. So we really like to see that. Then, we're gonna check all the fluids and everything and make sure there's nothing weird going on. You didn't put Walmart coolant in your Ferrari or whatever. We're gonna look for that sort of thing.
No oil in the coolant.
Right, no oil in the coolant. 360 we're working on. Anyways, then I'm going to look at the glass. I'm going to look at the windshield. I'm going to look at the windows and check the stamp on it for the factory stamp and see if you've got any aftermarket glass on there. Really don't like to see aftermarket windshield on a Ferrari, but I don't even know, can you get an aftermarket? Okay, so
Yeah.
a lot of times the installers, they're scared to work on those or something and they don't install them correctly again. I just don't want to see that. And on like the side windows and stuff, sometimes if you get in a wreck, it'll shatter those windows. Or if the car was broken into, there's glass in the door. I've had a ton of cars where you shut the door and it makes a rattle and you're like, what is that sound? Well, it's broken glass inside the door from when someone broke into the car and they didn't clean it all out. So stuff like that I'm looking for. We're gonna check the brakes. Not a huge deal on most cars, but on cars with carbon ceramics, we wanna look for cracks in the rotors and stuff like that. And then we're gonna scan it for codes. Really what I'm looking for with codes is to see if the codes have been cleared recently, because that means somebody's trying to hide something. Check readiness on all the monitors and make sure all the monitors are ready. We can check how many miles since the last code clearing has taken place. So we're gonna look at that. Basically at that point, we've got an entire story of the car and we're comfortable with its condition, where it came from, how it was treated, the current condition. And then we kind of check the market and see what other ones are going for, what they've sold for at the auction, how many transactions have happened recently. We have access to all that stuff, and then we kind of decide, okay, how much do we want to pay, how much do we think we can make, and then we'll make you an offer. That's pretty much it.
And I want to point out, like, just because your car might have some of these issues doesn't mean that we don't want it.
No,
So, like,
absolutely not.
We've had cars that have had paint work. We've had cars that have probably been in accidents, and we're not necessarily scared of it. It's just it needs to be priced accordingly. So,
Yeah.
and that's really what it comes down to is because we're trying to be as transparent as possible. If we see that the car's got paint work, we're going to say this car's got paint work. We're going to not have that value if it didn't have paint work. So we have to factor that into what we're going to sell the car. And that's why we get people sometimes that contact us and say, hey, my car is worth $135,000. So you guys, I'll sell it to you for $130,000. But like, we can't take that and only have a $5,000 gap because it's too much risk. It comes in, all of a sudden now it's got paint work. Well, now it's not worth $135,000. It's worth $130,000 or $128,000.
Right.
And we're already screwed. So it's, that's where we really kind of need a buffer to make sure that we're in the clear. Because again, like I said, every single car we've bought so far has needed work of at least $1,000.
Yeah.
Every single one.
And the other thing to note too is that most people, you're spending $100,000+ on a car. You want the car to be pretty near perfect, right? We're looking at 20-year-old Ferraris.
Yeah.
15, 20-year-old Ferraris. Even a 458 is 12 years old now. So you can't expect perfection unless you're really willing to spend a lot of money. You can buy perfect ones. You're going to spend twice as much as you would on one that maybe has a few things, maybe has a bumper painted or whatever. So you just have to be, yes, you're spending a lot of money, but you're not going to get a perfect car.
Set the right expectations.
You have to set your expectations. That's really important.
In fact, if you find a car and it is perfect, that always makes me worried. Because like, okay, where's the flaw? Like, there's always something.
There are perfect cars out there, no doubt.
And you're usually really expensive.
They're usually very expensive, or they're in a collection or something like that. And one more thing I wanted to mention too, we don't like cars that are wrapped.
Oh, no.
We don't want your car, we'll still take it, but we're gonna offer you significantly less. Because for us, if we're buying a wrapped car, we're gonna take that wrap off. People don't want a wrapped car. People wrap a car because they want to personalize it, for themselves, which is fine. Totally get it. In our minds, we have to think, what are they hiding under that wrap? What does the paint look like? How many of these panels are painted? Was it in a wreck? Is there big scratches? Is there orange peel on the paint?
If it was fine, when you pull the wrap off, is it going to damage the paint?
It can peel the paint off, especially if the car has been repainted and you take the wrap off, it can peel that paint off. So wraps are just no bueno for us.
If you have a wrap and you want to remove the wrap, then we can start talking.
Yeah, we're fine.
And that's
with
the other
that.
thing is even just to remove the wrap is a ton of labor. It can
Yeah.
take us a week.
Yeah, I don't know what Brad charges for doing a wrap removal. Probably
Oh.
$1,000 or something
Probably.
like that. Yeah. And again, that paint can peel off easily, especially on panels that are repainted. That's pretty much it. Now that we've got the story, we make you an offer. If you're happy with it, we're good to go. When we're buying a car at the auction, we look at the car, get as much information as possible, and decide, okay, here's how much we're going to spend on it, and we'll go up to this much. If we don't get it, we just move on to the next one.
Yep.
And like Dan said, we probably look at 50 cars before we buy one. We're picky because we want you guys to get a car that you can buy from us and drive it home and really have good faith that you're driving a nice car. It's not going to have any problems. You can have fun with it, not worry about it.
Or what I like to say is, it might have problems, but you know what they are.
Exactly.
You feel comfortable with those problems.
Exactly.
Because, again, nothing's perfect, so if it's not perfect, but you know what the imperfections are, you're going to feel better about it.
Yep.
You're not going to get home and go, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh, why is this broken? Like, oh, shit.
Not every seller is bad. There are a lot of bad ones out there, and they will take advantage of you if you don't do your due diligence. So you just be careful out there.
So guys, that's kind of what we do. Obviously, a lot of those things I would do if I were you. No matter where you're buying from, if you're not buying from us, or if you're buying from anyone else, or selling your car, those are some things to check out. Whether you're buying or selling, you should always check out the person buying or selling it to make sure that it's legit. Again, if you guys want to support us, like, share, and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Of course, go check out our dealership website, ngsupercars.com. Send us an email, sales@ngsupercars.com, if you got a car you want to sell us, or if you want to buy one of the cars that we have. And that's going to kind of do it. So we're going to be doing a lot of cool car stuff, so you're going to want to stay tuned. It's going to be sweet.
Nice.
Yay.
That was a good one.
I like this video.